everyone, my name is Sarah. I'm the Ectotherm Care Specialist here at the Cook Museum, and I'm so excited that you're joining us outside today as you get to meet some of our honeybees. You're probably familiar with the honeybee hive we have at the museum, but we actually have some off-site as well. And so these are our backup bees in case something happens to the ones at the museum, they decide they want to find another home. Then we have this Plan B, if you want to call it, that we can put these bees in instead. So you'll get to see a snapshot today of seeing the inside of a beehive from a beekeeper's perspective. So we need a few tools to help us take care of these bees. First of all, we got what's called a hive tool, and this will help us open up the hive. We also have our sugar water, and so as a beekeeper, we make sure the bees have everything they need, including food, and so we'll give them a little extra sugar water today. And then we have a couple other items here as well. Bees are very prone to different pests and diseases, and so we like to make sure that they're protected. And so one of the ways we help them out is to make sure that pests don't get to them. So we'll give them a little ant bait today. And then we also have what's called a bee smoker. And so sometimes while we're working with the hive, the bees might be a little agitated with the vibrations and movement. And so we can use the smoker to help calm them down. It will act as a little bit of a repellent to move them off the frame that we're looking at. And then it will also break up their communication. And so if they're trying to talk to each other, it can help calm them down while we work in the hive to make sure everyone stays safe and has a good time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my bee suit hood on, and I got my gloves so we're all protected, and let's go take a closer look. Now that we're all suited up, let's walk over to the hive. Beekeepers make sure that bees are cared for by providing all their essential nutrients, and so that can include food, shelter, and protection from things that might try to get to them. So for food, we provide a patty that will give them a protein source. The bees will feed protein to their young bees, which is called brood, in order to raise them up. We also give them sugar water, and so we'll add that to the jar here, and that will provide them an extra energy source. So no matter what time of the year it is, whether there's flowers out for them to collect nectar from or not, they'll be able to have food available to them. Bees are prone to being harmed by different things like pests, pesticides, and diseases. And so as a beekeeper, we try to make sure that they're protected from those things. For example, we have an ant trap down at the base here that we'll fill up with a bait to make sure the ants don't come into the hive and steal all the honey that the bees need to survive. So we'll fill that trap up as well, make sure it's good and loaded, and then we'll finish feeding them. Now it's time to open up the hive so we get to see what's going on inside. We do this periodically to check on the bee health, make sure that the queen is laying eggs, reproducing in there, make sure there aren't any pests inside the hive that we need to take care of. So let's go ahead and open up the hive and see what we got going on. I'm using our hive tool here. I'm gonna pry open the top board. The bees have this access point up top that they can exit through so that they can go out and forage. All right, it looks like we got a good amount of bee activity in these top frames here. When we first put this colony together, it was about 12,000 bees that we put in this box last spring. And they have been taking off and multiplying since then. So why don't we go ahead and pull out a frame and see what we can find on it. When these frames are first placed in here, they are pretty flat. They're just a sheet of wax that the bees will build out. And so they will build out this beeswax so that they can use it for different purposes. They might place their brood in there, and so that would be their young bees that they're raising, or they might use those cells to put honey in there. All right, this frame looks like it is full of happy, healthy bees, so we'll go ahead and slide this one back in now. But we're gonna go ahead and slide off this top box here. This one is called a super, and this is solely where they will make those honey stores, store those up for the winter time. And so we're gonna remove this, and the second box in the stack here, the base box, is called a brood box or brood chamber. That's where the queen will be laying those eggs. She can lay over 1,000 eggs in one day. She will lay one egg in each cell. That egg will hatch into a larva. The larva is fed by the workers. And the workers will keep feeding that larva until it fills up that whole cell that it's in. And then they'll cap it off. They'll put a layer of beeswax over it so that it can finish its development into a pupa. In those last days of being a pupa, then it will start to develop those wings and the hair, and then it will emerge out as an adult. We'll pull out one of these center frames here. You can see there's lots of bee activity on this one as well. This one's pretty heavy too. You can tell it's heavy because they have filled those cells up. There are no empty cells in the middle here. You can see a row of capped honey at the top there. Honey is made from nectar. And so the bees that act as forager bees will go out, they'll collect nectar from the flowers, and then they'll bring that back to some of the worker bees that are in the colony. Those worker bees will consolidate that sugar found in the nectar down to simple sugars. Those simple sugars they'll put into the cells and cap it with the beeswax, and that will transform into honey. Honeybees are pretty amazing animals for multiple reasons of how they can react to their environment and situation of what's happening around them. One of the ways is if it gets really hot outside, then it also gets hot inside the hive, and so they'll respond by doing what's called bearding. In those situations, you might see a cluster of bees hanging off the front of the hive there, where it kind of looks like a beard forming underneath the hive. That's so that they're outside the hive cooling off as a colony. And so it might look like swarming sometimes where they're getting ready to leave the hive, but it's actually just bearding where they're cooling off for the day. In the evening when it's cooler, they'll hop back in the hive there. So just like you got to see the inside of this hive, that's why we have one at the museum where you can see that observation hive of what the bees are doing inside that colony, live and active. We also are helping the environment. Bees are amazing at providing the food population by pollination. They are responsible for about 10 to 20% of the world population of food. We're encouraging bees by taking care of them, and you can do that at home as well. We hope to see you come out to the museum and see our observation hive out there.